A book that has been challenging me lately is called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall B. Rosenberg. It just opened up a lot for me in terms of communication skills, how I generally approach things, thinking that I'm a good communicator, but perhaps sometimes being violent in the way I express myself. Quick little caveat on the word violent and non-violent. I don't think this necessarily means that we're all talking to berate each other and to intentionally try to be violent, but there are very default ways that we unintentionally tend to hurt others. Marshall B. Rosenberg, by the way, this is a book written back in the 90s. In it, he talks about the 4 tiers or levels of communication. When we are confronted with something we don't like, so say somebody is talking to us and we are getting activated by that conversation. Tier 1 is we have a tendency to blame ourselves. I should have done this. I should have said that, feeling guilty, going inward, self-flagellating, beating ourselves up for not saying or doing something different. Tier 2 is we blame others. We blame others by saying, no, you're the dumb bitch, and we direct that energy back outward. Of course, that's kind of the basic example that we think of when somebody says violent communication. Level 3 is what we were taught in school, which is sensing our needs. Remember all those I statements that we used to learn about how to properly express how you feel? You'd be like, I felt like this when you said that. That is still level 3. And the part that challenged me so much in this book, and I'm so glad that I got it as a hard copy because I'm going to be rereading it and annotating it even more than I already have. But try to guess what tier number 4 is. Sensing the needs of others. So the author argues the reason why there is conflict between 2 people or between 2 groups is because there is a mismatch of needs. And this whole book is about how to sense the needs of other people, how to tune into that empathy and constantly bring it back to the feelings and the needs, as opposed to being defensive or offensive, trying to be right, trying to convince someone otherwise. It really is a book about sensing the needs of other people and what are they really feeling beneath the words that they are expressing. Because we all know people that communicate violently. That can be anything from non-communicative to passive-aggressive to aggressive. And beneath all of that, there are just 2 human beings who don't know how to express their needs. But the people who are emotionally intelligent and who do have the desire to learn how to communicate with people in a certain way, I do see how this book can give you the tools to talk with anyone and to find common ground and mutual understanding and just an overall sense of compassion for humanity when you learn to speak in this way. I'm telling y'all, this book is challenging me because I consider myself a clear communicator, but after reading this, if I'm really to be honest with myself, being a clear communicator isn't the same thing as being a compassionate communicator. And that takes a whole different level of emotional intelligence, which is what I'm trying to learn. And one of the judgments that came up for me around this book is like, okay, so now I have to learn this entire process and basically be everyone's therapist at all times. And then my higher self recognizes that that's not true. That I am reading this book and diving into this process and trying to the utmost of my ability to practice it, not because I'm trying to be this perfect communicator and solve world peace, but because I want inner peace. And what's going to help me have inner peace is being able to communicate with my loved ones in a way that's going to make them feel seen, heard, and understood. This process of nonviolent communication, it teaches you not only how to sense the needs of someone else, but your own needs. So when I'm feeling activated by a stupid Instagram comment, Instead of suddenly getting defensive and responding back and trying to prove my point, and again, feeding into this fear that I have of being misunderstood, I employ nonviolent communication. And maybe I reread that comment and I see that behind all this judgment that they have of me is really just a fear of losing control or of not having all the right answers and feeling like they can't solve Israel-Palestine, so they're going to direct it at their Jewish influencer they follow because that's easier. That's just an example, not my best example, but what's at the forefront of my mind right now. And maybe I can sense that behind this person dumping anti-Semitism in my DMs is a deep need to be, I don't know, heard. Or maybe they really, really do feel like they're doing activism on their own terms, or something is there that I'm not yet seeing because I am so caught up in my feelings and needs, and they're so caught up in their feelings and needs. That's not to say I'm going to be responding to every single person on Instagram, but again, going back to that inner peace, it's me having that dialogue with myself. And the last few chapters actually talk about how to use nonviolent communication with yourself, because there are so many times that we judge ourselves instead of observing ourselves. And a big part of this book is learning the difference between an observation and he calls it an evaluation, but I would call it a judgment. There's a difference between saying, I'm feeling scared, and saying, I shouldn't be scared right now. I gotta be tougher. One is an observation and the other is a judgment, and that is a personal attack. So you can see how our communication gets violent, not just with others, but with ourselves. So this is a book I'm going to be rereading. It's helped me a lot in my marriage. I've brought it into couples therapy. I tried to use it with a difficult friendship conversation that I had, although I must admit, I think I failed that one because, things got activated and emotional, and a lot of what I read went out the window, or at least I wasn't able to employ it the way that I had intended. But the purpose of nonviolent communication is really to connect empathetically with ourselves and others, the world around us, and find a little bit more inner and hopefully outer peace too. I hope this unofficial book review on Mary's unofficial book club was helpful to you. And like I said, let me know if you want more of these to see what I'm reading and learning.